Hey guys, K-God here. At the risk of putting my information out there for people to find out who I really am in real life, I've been in the IT field for quite some time now, and I thought that I could throw in some of my input into this whole pirate software situation that's happening. Everyone's been doing pretty excellent coverage about it, and I'd like to just input my expertise and kind of confirm what everyone has been saying as far as the hacking side of things. It should be said that I am not a professional pen tester or a professional cybersecurity analyst. You could say that I'm mainly on blue team, so I get exposed to a lot of the techniques and attacks that I have to configure and patch to defend against. It's not necessarily, like a cyber security role or like a hacker role, but I still have my part to do in as part of the blue team. I've done account compromise investigations, vulnerability scanning, and remediations, and that's not like anything crazy. It's just a tool that you use to scan the network. I'll talk about it in a little bit. And also, like Jason says, social engineering operations, which is just using phishing tools to help train users. I've also done vulnerability scanning, which all it is you just used a vulnerability scanner tool such as like Connect Secure or Rapid7. It scans the network, it scans your devices for vulnerabilities, it gives me a report. I have to just fix what it is, right? Sometimes it's just 0-day patches that we have to do. It's Windows patches, but a lot of the times it's like application patches. And this is like the starter pack for cybersecurity stuff. So first, I would like to shout out Slap News Network for his excellent coverage on this. His part 3 video that I have linked here is excellent. I would strongly recommend you even watch this before you watch myself and this video. He goes over a lot of Jason's claims and pretty much more or less debunks what he's kind of trying to peddle to you guys. So strongly recommend you guys watch this first. So first things first, we'll go over his LinkedIn. All right, so we'll talk about a bit about his experience and what each line of his experience means. So let's start with his Blizzard career, right? So it should be said that he started off as quality assurance, and you don't go from quality assurance to red team specialist. It's kind of like a car salesman transitioning into a mechanic at the dealership. It's kind of two different fields and they don't really overlap. And I wouldn't want somebody that is in quality assurance to necessarily be testing my network to make sure that there's no vulnerabilities or anything, right? So that's already kind of weird, but we'll get into this right now. So first off, infiltrated and exploited physical access controls. This means that he is testing out physical security, which means badges, like locked doors, gaining access to areas that he shouldn't, that type of thing. And based off that, I already can feel the energy drain from the room because it's not physical penetration testing is not as cool as hacking and regular penetration testing, which is probably why he lies about this stuff to make it seem a lot more cooler, right? So that's number one. Number two, manage social engineering operations. All this means is that he's sending out phishing emails to users to test them to make sure that they're not clicking on stuff they're not supposed to. He's not composing these emails himself. There's lots of programs out there that already have like templates. You put them on a schedule. They get sent out however many times a month you need them to. They will offer training for users that click on stuff. You get reports out of them. It's all automated. So listing this here is, a bit strange, especially with the way he reworded it. But that's basically what it is. So it's not anything super crazy. I've managed it myself. It's it's not it's not super difficult. And then created and launched and managed a global web app bounty program. I would say that he probably didn't do this, but he was probably on the team, or maybe he just took credit for this. Based off his coding experience, I don't think this guy has the credentials to create a web application. And this was 2015 and 2016, so he didn't have ChatGPT, so I don't think he created a web app all by himself. So I'm skeptical about that. So we're already off to a bad start with Blizzard. So let's move over to the actual cybersecurity firm, right? The one that has his government stuff. Right off the bat, penetration testing kind of doesn't mean much to me, right? It's like if I was a systems administrator and I just put IT support. It doesn't tell me much. I don't know what tools you used. I don't know what your day to day looked like. At the very least, I would be putting something like, Kali Linux using Nmap, you know, basic security tools and like what you used and how you use them basically, right? So this to me is already kind of strange. Second point, working with sensitive networks. I don't even know what that means because every network that you work on is going to be sensitive, right? Government entities still use the same hardware as business hardware. So there's nothing overly special. Granted, there are some exceptions, but most of the time, if you're using like Cisco networking, it's all going to be the same. It's going to be Cisco stuff. So I don't know. I don't. This just point just seems kind of weird to me because they're all sensitive networks, and I know he's probably not a network engineer, so I'm not even sure what this is supposed to mean. And in development of custom tools, I just think that's just straight cap, based off the coding that he has done or people have dissected. I don't think that this is anything because I would definitely list my custom tools, right? If I wrote a 0 day, I'm definitely going to be putting that in my resume, right? So that's already kind of weird. His Defcon stuff was not anything that he's done or anything hack worthy, right? These are all his badges here. And he's always in a team, right? So I, I feel like he's just bankrolling this stuff, to be honest with you. And all of this stuff is just cryptographics. That's just like puzzles. So like he's writing puzzles for, or he's winning puzzles with his team, right? And that's cool. It's just not as prestigious as, one of the presenters up at DEF CON, right? Like breaking Windows Hello offline. Like that to me is freaking crazy. Solving a cryptographic puzzle, not so much. That doesn't really let too much credence to how good you are as a hacker or something, right? Editor's note. I want to point out that cryptography in this sense with winning this contest is relating to puzzles. Cryptography is its own field and should not be confused with the puzzles that Jason and his team won. One thing I want to mention is when he talks about pulling the bot code and then putting it into assembly and doing whatever jargon that he says, right? That's already 2 points right here, right? So I'm going to talk about the first point. He says pulling it into assembly. Assembly is like a weird broken down version of actual code, right? Like I'll throw up an example right here shortly. But it's not like regular programming code. This is like you kind of have to know what you're doing. And based off how he codes currently, I don't think that this is true. This is definitely not true. I did see a comment in Slop News Network's video kind of talking about this. I don't know how true it is, but it kind of sounds plausible. I just wanted to point out the oddness of having really bad code and saying that you can read assembly. That's freaking crazy. I don't believe that for a second. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is he throws around random jargon together that doesn't really make sense. If you're in the know, then you know that he's full of it and he's not actually talking about anything. And I'll give you an example about this, right? So that way you kind of understand what we're talking about. Oh yeah, I was organizing my book collection the other day, and I started going into each book's encyclopedias to pull out their dedications and organize them according to their table of contents. Now that sounds like pretty crazy, right? But like I'm just gonna explain. I'm just gonna break this down for the people that don't read books, or I don't know. I would hope that you know this stuff, but I'll just break it down anyway, right? So first off, an encyclopedia. It's like Wikipedia, but it's in book form. There's hundreds, sometimes hundreds, like in a volume, right? Dedications are what an author will use to shout out people or like who the book is dedicated to, stuff like that, right? And then the table of contents is just a list of what's in the book or like certain chapters, stuff like that. So now that we know the terms of what I'm talking about, let's replay that sentence. You can slowly realize how weird it sounds. And that's exactly what Jason does when he talks about like techie terms and stuff. Oh yeah. I was organizing my book collection the other day and I started going into each book's encyclopedia and I pulled out their dedications and organized them according to their table of contents. That's how he sounds. Like it's it's very obvious for people that are in the know. And this is how he's like pulled the wool over your eyes to, think that he knows what he's talking about, but he really doesn't. Another thing I wanted to talk about DEF CON was his Stingray FBI story. I think no hacker or at least security conscious person that goes to Defcon worth their salt would realize that they should not be putting any USBs or any memory cards that they find at Defcon into their personal devices. And not only that, but I don't buy that this memory card was not at the very least encrypted somehow. And then that Jason had an FBI agent to contact, or like, how do you even have contacts, to report this person? And the fact that he reported this person allegedly at a hacker convention, it's like no honor with this guy. It's like, it just screams kind of bullshit, to be honest with you. And one of my last points here is, I think anybody that knows anything, or at the very least is even entry level to computers, would realize that his claim about his game being able to run on a refrigerator is total bullshit. In this same video, you can see that the person that did this is just streaming it to the refrigerator screen. It's like the equivalent of a monitor being plugged in to your computer. And he doesn't realize that that's the case. And most people that are like tech savvy, and I don't even want to say tech savvy, I just want to say like tech aware or something, would kind of realize that. So I don't know, man. This is just weird. And the last thing is a message for you guys. So, hopefully something like this doesn't happen again, right? I think most people that call themselves like, or portray themselves as experts or super knowledgeable about different topics, I think is already a red flag. I think I can speak for most of us in IT that we still consider ourselves amateurs, because technology has a really big tendency to be like an iceberg. So the biggest example I can give you is from networking. You start off with, IP addresses, reservations, being able to ping another computer, stuff like that. But then once you start really getting into the weeds of it, you start, figuring out how a router routes their traffic. Start talking about OSPF. You start talking about spanning tree. You start talking about how spanning tree works and how it reflects the root bridge. And I'm like scratching the surface of network stuff. I feel like there's so much more to it too, and that's just from what I know. And that's why you have dedicated people just that all they do is just networking stuff. So someone that claims himself to be, a hacker, a game developer, great coder, I would definitely be wary of and suspect, because I think I can speak for all of us here, that we've all been interested in hacking at some point, or we've booted up like a Kali Linux, virtual machine and tried to play around with it, or gone on to whoever hacking websites, the ones that test that like are supposed to help you, and you get a target to hack and all that stuff. I think we've all done it, but then as soon as we realize how much stuff that you have to learn, I think most of us end up dropping it, and myself included. So there's like a prestige to this that I think most people never reach, and I guess it's a lot easier to just lie and say that you are really good at it when you don't have any idea what you're talking about. So hopefully this video helps at least one person, kind of change their mind on the whole, skepticism about this, because it's pretty clear that this guy is not an actual expert in any of this stuff. I hope it helps, other YouTubers kind of not feel like they're spouting bullshit, because, you're not. Like, this guy does not know what he's talking about. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. I don't anticipate to make any other videos talking about this guy. He doesn't deserve the attention. And I'll just go back to my regular videos. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.